In this video, we're going to talk about how to run for mayor of a city. I'm going to show you how it's done, what you need to do, the intricacies of everything that you need to know before you do it. Stay with me because I got a lot to share. Basically, 6 things we're going to cover here. One is the unique nature of what running for mayor is. The second thing is how you build a network. Third thing is how you come up with a compelling message. The fourth thing is how you advertise that message, and then we'll wrap it up with a couple of other important details about how you do this the right way. Let's first talk about the unique nature of a mayor's position. Mayors, some of them are partisan, but a lot of them are nonpartisan, but their job is not to engage in partisan politics. It's to oversee, improve, maintain the quality of life for people in their city. And there is no good Democrat or Republican way to do that. What is a Republican or Democrat about fixing a dangerous intersection or putting new ditching in to fix a flood problem, or to creating or building a new park, or maintaining well the ones that you have? This is what you deal with in a mayor's job. So for that reason, voters don't quite much care so much about what your party affiliation is how they think you are going to impact the quality of life in that place where they live, where their children go to school, where they spend their weekend time, where they go to the local shop to buy the muffin, the safety of their streets, the safety of the intersections, the speed at which they can get from one destination to another. All of those are quality of life concerns, and the nature of a campaign for mayor, therefore, is generally focused on the quality of life concerns of people who live in the city. That greatly affects the message, and it's what makes it different from a partisan race for Congress or U.S. Senate or governor. Now, in order to talk intelligently about what you're going to do for the people of your city, it's kind of important that you know your city. And here's the thing about cities, particularly densely populated cities, is you can walk from one neighborhood 8 or 10 blocks down the street and note that you are in a completely different neighborhood. In one neighborhood, you may encounter people who are Caucasian, and you go down the street a few blocks and there aren't many Caucasians. Maybe they are African American or brown skin or some country from the Middle East where they've moved here. Cities tend to be places where immigrants go first because they have the infrastructure and the facilities that provide for them. The way to know your city is to either walk it or get in the car and drive around and note what you see, or to talk to people who are involved in serving your city in civic and community organizations that are in the business of helping people who live in your city. They tend to know the problems first. And if you really get desperate, talk to a few of the ministers in your city, because ministers, believe it or not, are the first ones to figure out that there is a problem going on in the community, because they're the places people go when they need some help sometimes. So know your city. Now, quick story about this. Not long ago, that I was involved in a city council race where this is a big one, where 100,000 people are registered to vote, and a lot of them are going to vote, and it's a race where you got to do a lot of advertising, and it was in a very diverse district with several different languages spoken. And this young candidate had never run before, and he says, boy, I can't get my arms around, because it seems like I could talk a lot of things, but all of my concerns I'm not sure really deal with the community. And I said, well, tell you what, spend a couple of weekends, get in the car, actually have your girlfriend drive, and you get in the passenger seat and have her drive up, down every street in your district and note what you see. And he did. And he called me so excited on a Monday morning. He says, oh, that list I was working on, I got 50 new things on it. There's a school district and the building's fallen down on the high school. It needs to be fixed. And I found this dangerous intersection near a subway stop and the lighting is terrible at night and that's a safety hazard. This park, the trash is everywhere. We need to get that fixed. All of this he learned by simply driving around and observing. Item number 3 is when you're running for mayor of a city, you'll find that there are certain people in the city who kind of have a lot of influence, or what we call them influencers. We call them stakeholders. We call them opinion leaders. Every city has them, even large cities. Just a group of people who kind of keep tabs on what's going on in the city. And the reason is quite simple. The land in cities is quite valuable, so landlords really care about the future of the city to protect their investment. There are developers that have done major development projects in the city, and they're interested in making sure the value of those developments is maintained. There are lots of people who have important companies and civic organizations that have a stake in a community, and these people tend to be opinion leaders and influencers. You'll also find them in political parties. You will also find that certain elected officials in a city council members are also influencers and opinion leaders. And I'm not saying you need the support of all of these people. I talked to a candidate the other day and he said, well, I don't have the support of the mayor in my race for city council, but the vice mayor says she is for me and she's willing to endorse me. And I said, good, checkmate. He has the mayor, your opponent has the mayor, you got the vice mayor. We don't even need to worry about anything else. That's your establishment support, or at least that's the beginning of it. And that's what I'm talking about here. You don't have to have everybody, but you do need a few of these opinion leaders and stakeholders and influencers in your corner as you mount a credible campaign for mayor. If you don't, work on finding a few of them. Another thing that's worth mentioning about a race for mayor is cities kind of get to do what they want to do in the rules that they write. And cities, city councils have their own rules about what it takes to get on the ballot. They have their own rules about campaign committees that you have to file and banks that you have where you deposit the money. And they may have rules on how you can spend that money. And I can't tell you what those rules are in your city, but I can tell you this: you need to know what those rules are early on in the campaign so that you don't get caught breaking the rules. And I will say, if you don't conform to the requirements about getting your name on the ballot, you're done. You can't win a write-in campaign for mayor of a large city. So, those first and foremost, check the rules in your city. What is required for you? How many petitions do you have to circulate? How many signatures do you need? Do you need to cut a check? But know what that rule is. And make sure you comply with the disclosure requirements on how much you're allowed to take from who and what you're allowed to spend that money on. Finally, I'll mention 2 things. In some ways, once you've considered what I've already said, 2 most important pieces of a campaign for mayor, and that is your message. What are you going to do with the job if you get it? What initiatives are you going to take that will improve the quality of life for people in your city? How are you going to improve a particular neighborhood that needs help because half the businesses have left the area and there may be a crime or a drug problem or a gang problem? What are you going to do for a different part of the city that may have a flooding problem? Or on one city where I recently worked, they were scared to death of forest fires because they were living next to an area where there'd been a forest fire. So neighborhoods have concerns, but you also have to have a universal message that kind of lets people know what makes you qualified for the job, what you're going to do for the city if you get the job, what makes you better than your opponent. What can you tell voters so that they know they can really trust you to do the job? And there's a final component of that message, is what makes you better than the other candidates who may be running. All of those are components of the campaign message. Now, the secondary thing here, once you have that message, is you have to disseminate it to people who are going to vote. And I won't say it's complicated, I just say you got lots of ways to do that. Certainly you can do a video, certainly you can have a website, but you can do advertising on Facebook, you can do advertising on YouTube, you can do direct mail advertising, you can use radio, and there are umpteen different kinds of television ads that you can air to reach certain people in your city. All of them are useful tools. The information about that is available in another video, and I'm going to tell you where you can find it. I have a free gift for you, and I'm going to suggest that you might find it very useful. We've just talked about the elements of what it takes to run for mayor and certain things you need to know before you go, but you need a strategy. How do you use all of these tools? How do you use them correctly? How do you use them in a way that don't cost you a fortune? So, in this free video, based upon what I've learned doing this for about 45 years, how to create a political campaign strategy. If you want to know how to use the information I just gave you, go watch it, and yes, it's free.